All right, in this video, I'm going to show you how to create your very own AI-enabled voice assistant with no code. This is an assistant that's going to be able to answer calls, phone calls, talk with a customer, answer questions, and in this case, we're going to take an order and pass that order data into another tool where we can access it, in this case, Google Sheets. So let's just take a look at the overview of the tech stack and the flow. We're going to start in Vappy. Vappy is the tool that's going to have the voice assistant. And within Vappy, we're going to utilize OpenAI for our AI model and 11 Labs for our voice model. From there, we're going to take that data and pass it into make.com. And from make.com, we could go a lot of places with the data. For simplicity, in this example, we're going to take it into Google Sheets where we can view it. So let's dive in. So you're going to start in Vappy. Once you create an account, go under Platform, Assistants, and you're going to create an assistant. Now, Vappy has several templates that you can use to start for different use cases. These are okay. They come with some of the fields pre-populated with a prompt, a sample prompt in there for that use case. You're going to need to edit your prompts anyways, and these prompts tend to be pretty basic. So you can use those, or you can just start from a blank template, which is what I'm going to do here. All right, so once you're into your new assistant, I'm going to name this something that I can remember. And right off the bat, you're going to notice a couple things about this, the way this assistant is set up. You're going to see at the top an estimated cost per minute and latency for your assistant. These numbers are going to change as you make tweaks to different aspects of this model. So you'll be able to see if you say selected a different AI model and you see your cost double or your latency double, that may be worth it, but that would allow you to make those trade-offs. So we're going to go under model, which is where we start. And the first message, this is the message that the AI is going to read or say when it answers the phone. So this is the introduction. So we're going to create an assistant for a pizza restaurant. I'm going to say, this is Hannah from Sam's Pizza. How can I help you? It's going to say that every time it answers the phone. From there, it's going to respond to what the customer says and what you put into the prompt for your AI. So the second field down here, this is the prompt. And this is probably one of the most important parts of this whole thing. So just to give you an overview of kind of how I've structured this prompt, there's a lot of really good prompt frameworks out there. The one I used was the role. So I define the role of the assistant. I tell it the task that it's supposed to do, and then I give it details on how it's supposed to do those tasks, as well as some guardrails or guidelines on things to stay away from. I define the tone. I give it some additional context on the business and what we do. And finally, I provide some examples where I actually create sample conversations for the AI to use as an example for how it would handle different situations. So if you go back in here, I've already written this prompt, so I'm just going to paste it in there so you can see. I am telling it that it is an employee at Sam's Pizza. It's a top-rated pizza restaurant, blah, blah, blah. Its job is to talk with a customer, answer questions, and take their order. So here's where it starts to get really important, where I start to define some of the specifics. I tell it to repeat the order back to make sure it's correct, and if it's not, to make corrections. I tell it that if the customer goes off script or goes off track and starts talking about something besides pizza, to steer the conversation back, as well as how to respond if the customer requests something that isn't on our menu. I've got the tone here, context, a little bit more about the business, and then here is where I've put in a few sample conversations as examples to help guide the AI. So this is an example of taking an order. Here's an example where the customer is asking questions and how you would respond to that. Here's an example where the customer asks about things that we don't have on our menu and how to respond to that. And you can certainly create more examples. And as you create this and test it, you're going to want to refine your prompt and you're including your examples to really dial in what you want the AI to do. So besides the first message and the prompt, under this model tab, you're going to select your AI model provider. So in this case, I've selected OpenAI. There are several other options in here, and then the specific model from that provider. So in this case, I've just selected the 3.5 Turbo. Knowledge base. So you may or may not have these. So this would be specific detailed information about whatever it is the AI is talking about. So in this case, I've created a menu that I want the AI to be able to reference, and I'll show you what that looks like. So this is just a sample menu that I created with ingredients for each item on the menu, the prices, the sizes, some sides and drinks and whatnot. So that's something the AI can reference as it goes through this process. I'm going to leave the temperature where it's at. So this would control how creative or how kind of the randomness of the AI model. Dialing it up could lead to more results that in this case we don't want. And then max tokens is the maximum length of the response that the AI can provide. So in this case, I shouldn't need really long responses. So I'm actually going to shorten that to keep it really concise. So that's it for the model. We're going to go next to the transcriber, and I'm going to leave this all to default. So this is the tool essentially that takes the voice conversation and turns it into text to pass it into OpenAI so the AI can process it. So in this case, the default is DeepGram. I'm going to leave that. If you had a different language, obviously you could choose. There's different language options here, or even accent, like you see English, Australian, or British. But I'm going to leave all that the way it's set. So voice. So you have the option to select from a number of different voice providers and different voices. We're going to use 11 Labs for our voice. And I'm actually going to, if you go under this voice library here, you're going to be able to see all the voices that are available and get a sample of those voices. Okay, so we're under 11 Labs in the voice library, and we can filter by the gender of the voice. We can also filter by the accent. So there's different option there. I'm going to choose a female American in this case, and you can sample.
Enjoy constitutes our abundance. Happiness can exist only in acceptance.
So you can play with this and find one that you like. And once you find one that you like, you can actually just hit this copy to copy the code, and we'll take that back over into the model. Okay, so once you've selected your voice, you can choose a model. I've been using this 11 Labs Turbo V2. And then there are a few other settings down here under voice that you may want to look at. Background sound, so you could turn on like office sounds in the background. I'm probably not going to do that. There's also this option to put punctuation boundaries in. So these are punctuation marks that would essentially create chunks of data that would be sent to the AI. So it could help parse the data more naturally and maybe improve the results. Next, you'll notice there are some options here for filler words. So this would be like and you can turn that on. In theory, that might make the voice a little more natural sounding. I found that it could be a little distracting and it overdoes it. So I haven't turned that on. I'm happy with how it turns out without that on. And then there's this thing called back channeling where the AI is making noises like, yeah, while the customer would be talking. Again, I found that to be a little distracting, so I've left that turned off. The rest of these I've just left all at the default setting. So the next thing we're going to do is go into functions. And this is where we're going to set up a tool that takes the data out of VAPI into make.com. So the first thing we actually need to do is head into make.com and create the webhook that we're going to plug in here. So if you head over to make.com and go under scenarios and create a new scenario, you'll end up with this screen with this big purple circle. So you're going to want to select a webhook. If you don't have a webhook popping up at the top of your screen, you can just go down here and type webhook. And I'll select this one so we can see all the options. So the one we want to choose is this custom webhook, the second one down. And this is a trigger, meaning it kicks off this scenario. Okay, so once I select that, I'm going to create a webhook, give it a name. that I can remember. IP restrictions would be if I didn't want data coming from certain websites from a privacy standpoint. Generally, you probably wouldn't need to worry about that. So you can leave that blank and I'll hit save. Okay, so now I've got a webhook and you're going to notice two things. One is we have a URL. This is the web address that VAPI is going to send the data to. So we're going to copy this web address by just hitting that button. And then the other thing you notice is it says Make is now listening for the data to determine the data structure. So it doesn't know what data it's going to be getting from this. So it's essentially waiting for the first data to be sent to this URL. So it's listening, and that's good. We're just going to leave it there and go back to VAPI. So once we're here, we're actually, before we do anything else in this functions tab, we're going to go into tools and we're going to create a new tool. And you see there's a couple options here, custom tool, make, or go high level. So obviously select make, and that URL that we selected or that we copied, we're going to paste in there and save that. Okay, so now we're going to go next. And this is where we're going to define the properties or the data that VAPI is going to send over to make.com. So in this case, just to keep it simple, we're going to use two things. We're going to have name, and you want to use a concise but very descriptive description of each property, because that's how the AI is going to figure out what should go into this bucket under name. So I'm going to say the name of the customer, hit save, and then I'm going to create another property for order. And I'll describe this as the pizza order requested by the customer, and save that. Okay, so then we'll go next. And here's where we're going to name the tool and describe the whole tool. So I'm going to call this Sam's Pizza 3. And this tool collects the name and order of a customer. I'll say maybe pizza order. Okay, I'm going to hit create. Okay, so now that tool has been created, so we can go back to our assistant, and under functions, you can now go in and select the tool that we just created. And then there's some other predefined functions in here. So the one that I've turned on is this enable end call function. So this would allow the AI to hang up on its own when it can tell that the conversation is over. So I'm going to turn that on. And then here's a few phrases that would trigger that. Goodbye, if you spell it right. Bye. So there, and then we don't need to worry about any of this down here. You now have your function. We're not going to set anything. We're not going to change anything right now in the advanced tab. We don't need to worry about this analysis right now. So essentially our voice model is set up now, but now we actually have to get it to send some data over to make.com. So the way we're going to do that is publish the model. And then we're actually going to hit this talk with assistant and essentially do a trial, do a test with our new assistant and have it send that data over. So I'm going to pause and go ahead and do that. And then you'll see the data pop over into make.com. Okay, so now I just went through a conversation with the AI, and now I'm going to go over to Make, and you'll see that it says where it was spinning and saying it was listening. Now it says it's successfully determined the data structure. So we're going to click OK. So now we can connect this webhook to Google Sheets. Again, if you don't have it visible, you can just search for it, but mine's at the top. And I've already set up a sheet for this. I'll show you. So I have a sheet that I just called Sam's Pizza, and I just put two columns in it, the customer name and the order. Obviously, we can totally expound on the complexity here, but let's start simple. So I'm going to go add a row to this sheet every time this runs. Okay, so you're going to go into this Google Sheets module and set up. First, you need to connect your Google account. I've already done that. But once you've done that, you'll be able to select a file. So in this case, I've got the sheet that I showed you called Sam's Pizza. So I've selected that. Sheet 1, the table contains headers. Yes. The module has been able to identify the headers. So I have 2 columns, customer name and order. So you're going to click on these. And because we sent the data already to the webhook from VAPI, so it knows the data structure, we're going to have all of these red options that we can select. Had our data not gone through, none of this would be here. So you're going to go under this tool call list, function, arguments, and you can see name. We're going to put that under customer name and order. So that was the data that was sent over. Once you've got that, you can click OK. And this thing is now live. So if you go in here, you can see we've sent some data over. Customer name, Steve, ordered 1 large pepperoni pizza. So again, we could always add complexity to that, but that is a good start. So that is pretty much it. Now your voice assistant is set up, you're live, and it's just a matter of testing and updating and tweaking as you go along. So I hope that helped. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below and I'll be happy to help. And thanks for watching.